Picture this. Traffic comes to a standstill on a sweltering August afternoon. A driver rear-ends another car and blames their cup of too much brain fog. You fume, but what if that driver truly could not control their reflexes, could not form the intention to slam the brakes? Could you still hold them morally responsible? That dilemma where intention meets outcomes, capacity meets accountability, is the heart of moral responsibility. What is moral responsibility? Moral responsibility means you get credit or blame for what you do, but only if you knew what you were doing and weren't being forced. It's not just for philosophers in fancy chairs. It's how society works, how trust is built, and why apologies and thank yous matter. 2 rules apply. First, the control condition. You need to be in charge of your actions. If someone's forcing you at gunpoint, you get some slack. Second, the epistemic condition. You need to know what you are doing and understand the consequences. If you accidentally ruin grandma's cake because you thought salt was sugar, you might get mercy or just baking lessons. Can we even be responsible? Moral responsibility gets messy when we dive into the free will debate. Incompatibilists say we are only truly responsible if our choices come from pure, uncaused freedom. If something else pulls the strings, blame goes out the window. On the flip side, hard determinists like neuroscientist Robert Sapolsky argue that biology, genes, and childhood experiences dictate everything we do down to the firing of neurons. If that's true, blaming people might make as much sense as blaming your toaster for burning your bread. His view stirs debate because, while science backs him up, society still needs accountability to function. Compatibilists like Peter Strawson and Daniel Dennett offer a middle ground. Even if our choices are influenced by prior causes, as long as we act with reflection and intent, responsibility still applies. This keeps courts, rules, and apologies in business, while admitting we're all products of our wiring and upbringing. The science behind moral responsibility. Modern research adds plenty of twists to the moral responsibility debate. Psychology shows that people's judgments depend on how much control and awareness someone had. We tend to go easier on those struggling with addiction or mental disorders that impair self-control. Neuroscience adds more fuel. While unconscious brain activity often kicks off before we consciously decide, reflection still matters. Our brains run on feedback loops. Yes, some choices feel automatic, but we can catch bad habits and make changes, keeping responsibility alive and kicking. Philosophers have even brought math into the mix, using models to untangle situations with shared blame like corporate scandals or government failures. Even if no one person directly caused the mess, multiple people might still share responsibility. In today's tangled world, these frameworks help sort out who's on the hook. Why moral responsibility matters. Moral responsibility is not just philosophy, it shapes real life. Take climate change. Politicians and citizens wrestle with long-term consequences, but accountability often gets lost in the crowd. Interestingly, when leaders walk the talk like cutting flights or going plant-based, others follow. Sometimes role models beat regulations. In healthcare, responsibility gets painfully personal. During COVID-19, doctors faced impossible choices, like who got life-saving equipment. Many now suffer moral injury, forcing healthcare systems to rethink how to support staff making gut-wrenching decisions. The criminal justice system is ground zero for moral responsibility debates. Traditionally, it's been all about blame and punishment. But philosopher Hannah Pickard suggests responsibility without blame, holding people accountable while offering compassion, especially for those dealing with addiction, trauma, or mental illness. The goal? Rehabilitation, not just retribution. The psychological barriers to responsibility. Despite its importance, moral responsibility can easily be undermined by human psychology. One well-documented obstacle is the diffusion of responsibility, exemplified by the famous bystander effect. Classic studies by psychologists Darley and Latane found that people are much less likely to help someone in distress if others are present. In groups of 5, intervention rates drop dramatically to around 30%. When responsibility is spread across many people, each individual feels less pressure to act. Another mechanism that undermines responsibility is what psychologist Albert Bandura called moral disengagement. People can rationalize unethical behavior by minimizing harm, displacing blame onto others, or dehumanizing victims. This allows individuals to commit or tolerate wrongdoing while preserving a positive self-image. These mechanisms have been observed in war crimes, corporate misconduct, and even everyday consumer decisions that affect environmental sustainability. Moral courage. While many people fail to take responsibility, others demonstrate moral courage, the willingness to act ethically even at personal risk. Moral courage is what enables whistleblowers to expose corruption, human rights activists to stand up against oppression, and everyday citizens to intervene when they see someone being harmed. Research shows that parents who cultivate moral courage in their children by encouraging empathy, autonomy, and ethical reasoning raise adults who are more likely to act responsibly, even when it's difficult. Moral courage is not the absence of fear, but the willingness to act despite it. It often involves standing alone, risking reputation, or even personal safety to uphold ethical values. In an age where ethical failures are often exposed on global stages, moral courage is more essential than ever for both individuals and institutions. Why moral responsibility builds trust and social cohesion. Beyond individual actions, moral responsibility serves a broader societal function. When people and leaders take responsibility for their actions, it fosters trust between citizens and institutions. Transparency, consistency, and accountability serve as the glue that holds democratic societies together. People are more willing to follow laws and social norms when they trust that others are also being held accountable fairly and equally. On a personal level, taking responsibility promotes character development. Admitting mistakes, offering sincere apologies, and learning from failure builds integrity and resilience. Leaders who demonstrate these qualities earn the trust and respect of those they serve. In turn, such behavior models responsibility for future generations. Justice systems are also beginning to evolve by incorporating more nuanced understandings of moral responsibility. Approaches like restorative justice focus on healing rather than punishment, encouraging offenders to acknowledge harm, make amends, and rebuild trust with victims and communities. These models recognize that while people must be held accountable, compassion and understanding often lead to better outcomes for everyone involved. Emerging challenges. As our world grows more complex, new challenges to moral responsibility continue to emerge. Mental illness and neurodiversity, for instance, raise difficult questions about the extent to which people have control over their actions. Disorders like borderline personality disorder or severe depression can impair judgment and self-control, complicating our assessments of responsibility. Even more pressing are the ethical questions raised by artificial intelligence and automation. As machines take on increasingly autonomous roles from driving cars to making hiring decisions, who bears responsibility when something goes wrong? Is it the programmer, the manufacturer, or the machine itself? Scholars are now grappling with whether AI systems could ever qualify as moral agents, or if responsibility must always rest with the humans who design and deploy them. Systemic problems such as climate change, global inequality, and public health crises further complicate the assignment of responsibility. These challenges often result from collective failures that span generations and institutions. Addressing them requires new frameworks for shared responsibility, cooperation, and long-term thinking, rather than merely pointing fingers at isolated individuals. Everyday practices for living responsibly. In daily life, moral responsibility often comes down to small but meaningful choices. Before acting, individuals can pause to reflect. Can I choose differently? Do I fully understand the consequences of my actions? Leading by example, whether through sustainable habits, volunteering, or speaking out against injustice, can inspire others and create ripple effects that amplify responsible behavior across communities. When confronting others' ethical failings, a call-in approach addressing the behavior compassionately while preserving dignity often leads to more constructive outcomes than public shaming. Staying informed about new ethical research, like Hannah Pickard's empathy-based accountability model, can sharpen one's moral instincts and lead to better decision-making. Finally, developing moral courage at home, in schools, and in workplaces ensures that people are equipped to speak truth to power and defend ethical principles even in challenging circumstances. And there you have it, the incredible world of moral responsibility. If this made you rethink your own moral choices, or at least gave you some great conversation starters, don't forget to smash that like and make sure to subscribe. Until next time, stay curious, stay responsible, and I'll see you in the next one.